Welcome back to my channel. I'm Ryan, and in today's video we're going to be discussing part 2 of Cal Newport's book, Deep Work: Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. Hey, it's me from the future. I just thought I'd let you know I made a free Notion template that you can easily download, and it's got my whole daily routine on all 7 days of the week, and it's super easy to change and modify to fit your own daily routine. Go check it out. It's in my bio, and I'll leave it linked below this video. But let's get back to the video. Rule number 1 is work deeply. To integrate deep work into your professional life, you can choose a way that suits you best, says Newport. Scheduling deep work. You can pick one of the following approaches, which he calls philosophies. The monastic philosophy of deep work scheduling. This approach is about getting rid of drastically minimizing things that could be considered shallow. For example, a science fiction writer, Neal Stephenson, doesn't provide his email address on his website page. He explains that this way he makes it clear that he doesn't want to be disturbed. He understands that answering many emails can result in lower quality of his books, and to a much slower pace of his work. The bimodal philosophy of deep work scheduling. Carl Jung, who we looked at earlier, did not totally eliminate distractions. What he did was eliminate them only for the time period he spent at his retreat. The bimodal philosophy consists in dividing your time and dedicating one part of it to deep thoughts, and the other one to everything else, including shallow activities. What is important in this approach, says Newport, is the amount of time you devote for deep work. It must be at least one full day. A couple of hours in the morning does not count. Unfortunately, many people lack flexibility at work to afford these deep work time periods. However, when you clearly determine the time frames and let people know about your desire to work deeply, they will probably respect your decision. The rhythmic philosophy of deep work scheduling. If you consistently do your work sessions, you will transform them into habits. This way, you won't have to make an effort if and when you want to go deep. Here, Newport tells a story about the comic Jerry Seinfeld, who described his secret of being brilliant at his job. Every day, he writes a joke, and every day he crosses out the date on the calendar with a big red X. So in a few days, he can see a chain of crosses. The chain growing creates a rhythmic routine and works as a great motivation. The journalistic philosophy of deep work scheduling. The journalistic philosophy about being able to switch quickly from deep work to shallow work mode. This ability doesn't come naturally, but can be practiced. So, how does this approach work? Walter Isaacson, who is called one of the best magazine journalists in America, works like this. He can enjoy the company of his family, then go upstairs for some 20 minutes, then come back. Anytime he wasn't busy, he was able to switch to deep work mode. This way, he wrote a 900-page book, aside from his articles. You must be careful to choose a philosophy that fits your specific circumstances, as a mismatch here can derail your deep work habit before it has a chance to solidify. It's therefore worth taking the time to find an approach that makes sense for you. Rule number 2 is embrace the boredom. To achieve the deepest levels of concentration, says Newport, one must spend the rest of their time in boredom. When Newport says boredom, he means a state when a person is literally bored, while his brain is relaxing when his brain is relaxing from hard work. But what do we do when we feel bored? We get online. Meanwhile, switching attention, using different apps, or browsing the net has a very negative impact on our brain. People who multitask all the time can't filter out irrelevancy. They can't manage a working memory. They're chronically distracted. They initiate much larger of parts of their brain that are irrelevant to the task at hand. So if every time you get bored and you grab your smartphone, you develop a habit to get distracted, which is the opposite of deep work. To fight this, Newport suggests the following strategies. Don't take breaks from distraction. Instead, take breaks from focus. There's a popular technique called Internet Sabbath, when you pick a day of the week when you're not allowed to use network technology. This technique is not the most useful though. If you eat junk food all week except Friday, will it really save your health? Definitely not. Instead, Newport proposes the opposite approach, scheduling a break from focus to give in to distraction. Avoid the internet during time you're supposed to focus. This applies to not only work hours, but when you're at home. This way, you can teach your brain to resist distracting stimuli. Work like Teddy Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt had an amazing array of interests: dance lessons, bodybuilding, poetry reading, boxing, and so on. Yet, he was not falling behind his classmates. His biographer, Edmund Morris, says that this can be explained by how he approached his schoolwork, dedicating 8 hours to it and excluding time for classes, training, and lunch. He studied intensely, and the rest of his time reading quickly and paying maximum attention. This would let him spend the rest of his time on other activities. Meditate productively. We all have time periods when we are not occupied, but mentally are occupied physically. For example, while walking to work or driving, as Newport says, we can use this time for productive meditation, thinking about a problem that is most pressing at the moment. This allows you to actually use the time that would otherwise be wasted. Rule number 3 is quit social media. Now, I know this sounds hard, and it is for a lot of people, but in 2013, Newport wrote an article where he explained why he never joined Facebook. Even though the article was meant to be accusatory, he received some interesting feedback from readers who were trying to defend their choice to be an active user. For example, one person said that Facebook was a source of entertainment, but she was suffering from a lack of entertainment before she joined it, asked the author. Analyzing the comments he received, Newport came to the conclusion that the benefits people mentioned were minor and random. To describe this way of thinking, he uses the term, any benefit approaches to network tool. People justify using a tool if they can find any benefit it gives. As opposed to it, there's a craftsman approach to tool selection, identifying the factors that positively impact your professional and personal lives. And it's the craftsman approach, says Newport, that really matters. So, he suggests 3 strategies to abandon any benefit approach and adopt the craftsman one. So, he suggests 3 strategies to abandon the any benefit approach and adopt the craftsman one. Apply the law of the vital few to your internet habits. According to the law of the vital few, 80% of a given effect is due to just 20% of the possible causes. According to the law of the vital few, 80% of a given effect is due to just 20% of the possible causes. Speaking about it in the context of internet habits, try to analyze if the internet tool you use supports the most necessary activities that you have to do to achieve your goals. In other words, if you use the tool while doing the 20% of activities that make a difference. Quit social media. Newport suggests trying this strategy. Quit social media services for 30 days. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. After 30 days pass, ask yourself, have these 30 days been better? Has anyone noticed that I have been missing? The answers are yes and no, respectively. Stop using the service completely. Don't use the internet to entertain yourself. With the rise of the internet and the lowbrow attention economy it supports, the average 40-hour-a-week employee has seen the quality of his or her leisure time remain degraded, consisting primarily of a blur of distracted clicks on the least common denominator, digital entertainment. How do we use our time outside of work? Probably on our phones, scrolling thoughtlessly. But Newport insists that we should make deliberate use of our free time. It is important to plan out evenings and weekends in advance so that we don't get confused later. This can include hobbies or things that help us achieve our goals in the long run. Rule number 4 is drain the shallows. Deep work is exhausting, and your cognitive capacity is not limitless. Unfortunately, even though the value of deep work can be definitely overweighs the value of shallow work, you cannot devote all your time exclusively to it. For an average person, an hour a day is enough. For a person who permanently practices deep work, it can be extended to up to 4 hours. Yet, shallow activities like meetings, phone calls, and other events you cannot really control can consume much more time than expected, and often won't leave you a chance to focus. These time drains, as Newport calls them, are pretty dangerous. So, he suggests some strategies to tame shallow work that cannot be avoided altogether. Schedule every minute of your day. Planning is a very useful habit that helps you stay focused. So, plan your workday. And do it in advance. At the beginning of each workday, divide your workday into blocks. Then, assign activities to them. Of course, something will probably not go as planned, and you may wrongly estimate the time needed for a particular activity. Or maybe something will appear out of the blue. Don't worry, you can always revise your schedule. Planning your workday in a detailed manner may seem restrictive. However, the idea behind it is not about limiting yourself. It's about concentration. Quantify the depth of every activity, analyzing how deep you have to go doing a particular activity. Ask yourself the question, how much time will a graduate student without a special training need to do it? For example, if you need to edit an academic paper, you will have to know about the subject, as well as how to work with academic literature, proper citation, and so on. A student who doesn't have the knowledge like this will need a lot of time to get the task done. This can definitely count as deep work. Finish your work by 5:30. That's a simple one. Don't work after your workday is finished. It can seem that this strategy will make you miss deadlines, but not necessarily. If you know time is limited, you will use it more productively. Treat shallow work with suspicion because of its damage is often vastly underestimated and its importance vastly overestimated. This type of work is inevitable, but you must keep it confined to a point where it doesn't impede your ability to take full advantage of the deeper efforts that ultimately determine your impact. Deep work is a much more powerful instrument than most people can imagine. It's not for everybody though. To learn the skill, you have to change habits and use your willpower. To many of us, this sounds uncomfortable. But if you do choose to make deep work a part of your life, you won't have many competitors, and without a doubt, you will be rewarded. And that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you're still here, I made a free Notion template for keeping track of your day entirely. I made all 7 of my days in the template, and it's simple to edit, so you can do that too. I also have a free Discord community server in my bio, and I'll leave the Notion template and the Discord server linked below this video. See you next time.